And I've chosen not to wear shoes because being comfortable is really important for me. And I want to acknowledge that actually I'm really nervous. I have a bit of a problem with feeling safe in groups. This is new for me doing public speaking, so it's making my heart pound a little bit. I'm sure I'll get over it in a minute. It says nothing about my competence, so I've recently learned that that this is actually an activation of the nervous system, which is a remnant of trauma that I have had. And when people have these feelings like I can't put myself out there, it's not necessarily a self-worth issue or any comments about their abilities. It's literally an activation of the nervous system which makes them feel like I can't do it, my legs are going to collapse. My legs aren't going to collapse at this moment, but I do feel quite shaky. So I wonder if all of you would mind joining me first of all in a prayer. So if you would like to place your left hand on your heart, you're not obligated to do this, but and just take in a breath in, and then on that out breath just wishing yourself these words. So, may I be happy. And really feeling that for yourself, really wishing yourself a deep happiness. May I be well. And may I be free from suffering. And with that intention, just also sending it out to the planet, and that each one of us is connected to another person. And we are actually on this planet one very large and beautiful family. And just to know that no matter how much suffering any one of us is going through, that we have tremendous possibility and potential to change and to heal. So when you're ready and you feel like you've completed that, then just bringing your awareness back to the room. And perhaps just turning your head slightly and acknowledging maybe the person next to you if you're able to, or just looking around. So a human imperative is to feel connected to another human being. It's to feel connected and happy and well. It is our birthright for each one of us to be happy and connected and well. And that the thing about trauma is that it causes us to be disconnected. It has very severe impacts on our nervous system that actually shuts down our nervous system and breaks our connections. So an important part of healing trauma is to re-establish our connections, and the way to do that fundamentally is to create safety for ourselves. And that can happen through any number of means, but safety is imperative in healing trauma. So when I talk today about trauma, it may be that you experience some degree of activation, and you may recognize it as activation, or it may just be the way that you are normally feeling, and you think, oh, that's just me. But what can happen is that activation can be that we feel agitated or anxious, or fidgety, edgy, or collapsed, or we might go cold or shaky. And I invite you that if anybody feels any degree of activation from anything I say, just to raise their hand and just ask for me to slow down. It's not that I'm going to do anything terrible here, but I want to acknowledge that each one of us has trauma running in their nervous systems, and that it may become activated by any number of things that happen as I'm talking. So just slow down or stop. So these are, I don't know how well people can see this. Can you all see the board? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So these are the sorts of things that cause trauma. So neglect. Neglect is one of the main things that can cause trauma. Neglect of small children, particularly. Poverty, violence, war, abuse, any kind of physical, emotional, mental abuse, rape, accidents, loss, bereavement, loss of a pet, loss of a job or a sense of self, surgery, medical interventions, major cause of trauma, birth and pre-birth, any of the stages in between preconception through to birth, can be very traumatic and actually leave an imprint in our nervous systems that can trigger us to other things in our life, where we have a repetition of the original event that happened around our conception or our birth. Being trapped, being in any kind of situation, emotional, stuck in a job that you don't enjoy, being in a relationship that you can't get out of, a feeling of disempowerment and helplessness will gradually erode away your ability to cope with life and overwhelm your nervous system. There are other things that cause trauma as well, but that's the main types of things. Does anyone here identify or have experienced any of those things? Yeah? Can you give a show of hands, how many of you? Yeah? So, pretty much everyone in this room. So, trauma is not something that happens occasionally to somebody out there. Trauma is something that is happening to every one of us at any possible moment, and it can come out of the blue. So it's the normal things of life, the sudden unexpected things of life that can cause trauma. You're driving along the road and suddenly, out of nowhere, somebody hits your car, for instance. So both animals and human beings have a life on this planet where they're vulnerable to events that can happen out of nowhere. But animals do not get traumatized in the main, but human beings do. And the reason that humans get traumatized and animals don't is that human beings have this very, very complex brain that is unable to release the energies of trauma. Animals, after they've had a traumatic, have a life and death situation, are able to release the energy of that from their brain. Human beings are unable to do that. Not that they're unable, but they don't do that because we have a social conditioning that tells us not to get upset about what's happened, pull yourself together, don't cry, don't make a fuss, be a man, shut up, go away, be quiet. Where in reality we need to allow the energies of the trauma to move through our body. So I'll just do give a very brief description of what happens in our brain when we're on a life and death situation or a perceived life and death situation. So in the wild, an animal that's being hunted by a lion, for instance, a herd of deer, can be grazing, and a lion begins to stalk the deer, so that the deer are very alert and they understand there's danger. They stop, they look up and sniff, and if the lion goes away, everything's fine, and they go back to grazing again. If the lion decides to charge and chase them, the deer, from being on an active alert, will suddenly be activated into a fight or flight response. These responses are generated from the animal part of the brain, which human beings have and all animals have, at the rear brain. If the lion catches the deer, The deer will then go to the third line of defense, which is parasympathetic shock or shutdown, or tonic immobility. It means the same thing, is that a set of responses happen in the body and the deer collapses, it goes numb. And if the lion eats the deer is numb and doesn't feel it. If the lion drags the deer somewhere and leaves it for its cubs and then doesn't come back in time, after about half an hour, the deer will come through, the effects of the nervous system will wear off, and the deer will just shake and release this trauma. It's not a trauma, release the energies, the mobilization energies, the preparatory energies that the brain has generated for it to be get out of the situation. The deer will release them. Human beings have the same ability, but because of the social conditioning from our frontal cortex, we interfere with this the whole time. And so when we have a traumatic experience, when we have a life and death situation, we don't release the energies. I was in a major car crash, and I was dragged out of the wreckage, and then I started to cry, which was like a shake, and then I was so, no, don't cry, dear, you're all right, don't cry, it's fine. But in fact, the thing that I needed to do was to release that, and because I didn't release it, it left a lot of trauma in my system. And I have had a lot of experience of trauma in my life. I've had many circumstances in my life that have led me to becoming progressively more traumatized, which is what set me on the path of learning about trauma and healing it. So I'm glad to say that most of that has changed now. But the types of things that have happened to me is that I had birth trauma. I had very long and difficult birth. I had a childhood where there was quite a lot of neglect. I came from a post-war family, very poor, broken family home, difficult family circumstances. 2 of my cousins were literally given away after they were born because the family was too poor to take care of them. So all the way through my childhood I had lots of difficult circumstances. It left me in a situation of being very shut down and hard for me to relate to people. The consequence was then that I formed really bad relationships in marriages. So I had partners that, I chose partners that didn't really relate. I didn't relate to them, they also were traumatized. This is what happens, trauma repeats itself until we clear it. I had 2 babies born one after the other, both died after birth. That was very traumatic. Slow down. So, and I've had problems with being in partnerships with addiction and so on. And so then I had 3 major car accidents. So I've had a lot of experiences of how the nervous system is affected by trauma. Now, interestingly enough, we can heal this, even though that sounds really intense. And as Estelle said, we also carry the trauma from previous generations. We can access that, but we have the ability to heal it. So I just want to share with you what happens in the nervous system with trauma. So this is a healthy nervous system. It's just got a very gentle, and we have the arousal and the settling down again. Arousal is if we're activated to do something, and settling down is, we're just going to relax and calm down. That, like events that happen in life will just gently jog us and then let us settle again. But if we've had trauma, our nervous system doesn't function like that anymore. So this, for instance, is the car accident. And then the nervous system will get activated. Instead of settling down again, this is the curve that it needs. It actually gets stuck up in the fight or flight mode, so there can be a lot of activation and a lot of energy stuck up here. The parasympathetic shock, where the animal freezes, we also will go through this, and we tend to come down here and get stuck as well. So there's a whole range of conditions and diseases that are treated by the medical profession as being like a condition of your stomach if you've got digestive problems, without an understanding that actually there's trauma underneath this. So practically every condition that we suffer from has its roots in trauma, and when we start working with the nervous system, we can really begin to heal this. So with a nervous system that is stuck in fight or flight mode, we can have chronic pain, hyperactivity, exaggerated startle response. This is what happened after my accident. Is like the least little thing made me jump out of my skin, and it went on for weeks and months. Extreme restlessness, inability to relax, hypervigilance, you're always on the lookout for danger, it's not safe, digestive problems, your stomach's churning all the time, emotional flooding. Have you ever talked to somebody that seems to go on and on and on about something? They're emotionally flooding, it's because of trauma. Chronic pain, anxiety, sleeplessness, hostility. Who in this room has had an incident where somebody just totally reacted over nothing and been full of rage? Yeah? It's trauma. And this is where it's stuck off. Actually, the more severe condition where we're stuck in parasympathetic shock. So depression, flat effect, lethargy, deadness, a feeling of exhaustion, chronic fatigue, disorientation, disconnection, dissociation, and complex syndromes, extreme pain. So you can see that those kind of symptoms are symptoms that underpin a lot of conditions that we have, like ME, for instance, ulcerative colitis, or being suicidal. All those kinds of conditions can link back to these things. The other thing that happens in trauma is that our social nervous system is affected, and this is how we then start to become disconnected. We lose our ability to connect and communicate. Trauma very much affects the part of the nervous system that controls facial muscles, our ability to hear, to see, to speak, to articulate. So when we've had extreme trauma, we tend to shut down. It's like dangerous to make eye contact. Noises, particularly low rumbling noises, can trigger us into feeling traumatized. The sight of things, if we had an accident and there was a yellow handbag on the seat at the time, then the colour yellow might later trigger us into being activated. How's everybody doing? Yeah? Good. Okay, so healthy nervous system doesn't have those kind of activations. As I showed you at the beginning, it has a nice, easy flow, and that we can be open, curious, energized, ready to take on new information, confident about meeting people, relaxed, we sleep well, we eat well, we take care of ourselves. When we're traumatized, we stop taking care of ourselves. We skimp on food, we skimp on sleep, we don't really take the trouble to make ourselves look nice, we don't really go out to meet our friends. Yeah. So the work that I do at Healing Water Sanctuary, I founded the sanctuary about 10 years ago to create a space for healing retreats. Healing Water Sanctuary is a place where it's designed to be really calm, quiet, protected, create safety, so it's a place where people can come and heal from trauma, and it embodies the key qualities that we need to heal trauma, which is creating safety and to create resource. So if anybody in this room is currently suffering from trauma, or anyone who's witnessing this video which is going out on YouTube is suffering from trauma, then it's really important that the number one thing that you do is begin to create things in your life that gives you a sense of security and safety, and you start to resource your body. And I have put out a video and information on YouTube about resourcing, and there's other information on Healing Waters blog. But resourcing is the way of filling up your batteries and giving you a foundation to begin to start to heal from trauma. I particularly work with a method called somatic experiencing. So I focus on how trauma is healed through the body. Estelle works with energy. We work very complementary fashions together, but on different sides, different levels of working with trauma. So my focus is on somatic experiencing, and that is building up a sensation in your body that can speak to the animal part of the brain and tell it that it's safe right now. So, for instance, when people start to work with me, I ask them first of all, and I'm putting this question to you now, can each one of you feel yourself sitting on the seat? Are you aware of your physical contact with the seat? Yeah? Can you feel your feet on the ground? So I help people gradually tune into their bodies and feel a place in their body where they can actually feel safe. And from that, that's the foundation to work with those parts of your body where you don't feel safe. So the sensory awareness in your body is experienced in the medial frontal cortex of the brain, which is the only part of the brain that can actually turn off the animal part of the brain and to stop the amygdala sending out the danger signals. So when we can bring our body into a place of safety and comfort, we can tell the animal part of the brain actually the danger is not happening anymore. Because the problem is that once we've had a trauma, we think it's going on every time we get one of those triggers. In every situation, that's why somebody will fly into rage when nothing actually has happened, because they think they're still in a dangerous situation. So when you have a level of activation, if you can tune into your body and tune into where you feel safe in your body, then you can bring down the activation. So it's very focused and deep work. There's a kind of meditation as well, mindfulness meditation, and Estelle talked about the importance of meditation and how it's actually really important on many levels, and this is another way that it's important because it brings us into alignment with our bodies that then can speak to the nervous system. So I've forgotten what I'm going to say next. I'm still a bit nervous, so I'm sorry about that. So at the Sanctuary, we offer a number of ways that people can heal from trauma, and in order to support the vision about healing the planet, we've also created other ways of doing that work. So I know Estelle is working on putting out a program to help planetary healing and to train people in the work that she does. And what would you like to say something, Estelle, or not say something? Okay, I know that she's working on it, so we're both working on it in different ways. I'm personally doing a training. I'm training in healing practitioners or medical doctors or dentists, anybody that's in the field of working with other people. I'm training them in trauma skills. So my vision is that ultimately every fireman, policeman, teacher, healing professional in any shape or form has trauma skills so that we can help each other. We need to build our strong network and reconnect each one of us. So I just want to go through very briefly. How am I doing for time? Any feedback?
3 minutes to 1:30.
3 minutes. Okay. So I'm running a trauma training at Healing Waters. Starts in January, and there's an introductory workshop on the 6th of December, so where you get a taster and you also get a chance to find out what is coming up for you personally that might be affecting your work. And on the training we talk about the autonomic nervous system, the importance of building presence to create a safe container to be able to help people, somatic awareness and resourcing. That's the first module. The second module